Hello, everyone. A very logical day to all of you. Let's start with the reading part of the editorial, the first editorial of the Indian Express, June 24, 2023. Defensive no more. Reading part. When he addressed the joint session of the US Congress 7 years ago this month, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had declared that India had ended its historic hesitations in dealing with the US. Modi's claim had credibility. That means what Mr. Modi said, people could believe. Given his record on improving relations with the US during the first 2 years as Prime Minister, in the years that followed, PM Modi took consistent steps to expand the engagement with the US. Now, the last few years have seen rapid expansion of trade, making Washington the most important commercial partner for India. The US prevented Pakistan and China from taking up the Kashmir question in the UNSC after the NDA government changed its constitutional status in August 2019. When China surprised India with its military ingress in eastern Ladakh amidst a raging COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, the US stepped in to assist India in coping with the challenge by providing equipment and intelligence. Despite these welcome steps, the Indian security establishment remained hesitant in opening the doors for wider defense cooperation with the US. The Indian security establishment, it remained hesitant. मतलब इतनी बार यूएस ने हेल्प किया है strategically, but the Indian security was still a little hesitant. Although successive presidents from George W. Bush onwards were enthusiastic about a new partnership with India, bureaucratic obstacles persisted. Right? So, this part of the passage is giving you the main idea that what Mr. Modi's claim was credible, right? And how they have taken consistent steps to expand the engagement with the US. The same thing was here. It was a rapid expansion of trade, one thing, right? And then with the assistance that the US provided here during this COVID-19 when China military ingress का मतलब होता है enter होना, ठीक है? So because of this, still the Indian security was hesitant about it, remained यहाँ तक आ जाते हैं, remained hesitant, and but the people there at US were enthusiastic about the same. That means they wanted to increase or improve the relationship between US and India. So now the hesitance that they had, that is reduced. The story of Modi's visit to Washington this week was about overcoming these hurdles. तो जहां पर problem थी पहले first part of the paragraph में where they mentioned that see the Indian security is still hesitant about all this matter about increasing the relationship with US, but now Modi's visit to Washington has actually overcome these hurdles, or it was about overcoming these hurdles. So the two governments announced a range of ambitious new agreements, including on the transfer of advanced technologies and defense cooperation, on clean energy, climate change, and on promoting a new rules-based order. As the PM put it, in his address to the US Congress, India and the US stand at a new dawn in our relationship. Stand at a new dawn means the dawn is sunrise, right? The beginning of a new day. So it is the beginning of a new relationship that will not only shape the destiny of our two nations but also that of the world. It is tempting to conclude. Tempting से पता चल गया कि मतलब ऐसा मन हो रहा है कि ऐसा conclude कर दें that the shared challenge from China drove India and the US to a new juncture. That means because China was, you can say, a headache for India, is a headache for India as well as US, and therefore this has brought these two countries, India and US, together. This we are tempted to believe or conclude. That is certainly true of the plans to build deeper defense cooperation. ये सही है बात. That will see US support for the modernization of India's defense industry and India's facilitation of greater operational coordination between the two armed forces. But there is a larger imperative. एक और reason है that binds the two nations, the need to reboot their national economies amidst disruptions unleashed by the new technologies. So the new technologies have disrupted the economies a lot. So India and US can come together to reboot their economies. This is a reason, right? And we would be tempted to believe that this is the reason. हम ये कंक्लूड कर सकते हैं, लेकिन रीजन ये है, इस वजह से भी वो दोनों कंट्रीज एक दूसरे से जुड़ी हुई हैं. So the recognition that the framework of economic globalization must be reworked. This both the countries have recognized, and the need to restructure the traditional relationship between energy and economy to ensure sustainable growth. So what is the base here is sustainable growth. So fulfilling this ambitious bilateral agenda with regional and global consequences demands suppleness and creativity in the Indian policy and administrative establishment. Right? So that means this part of the paragraph is saying that we need to remove or overcome the hurdles. The hurdles क्या था? जो hesitation पहले था Indian security को या India को, ठीक है, जो कि पिछले कुछ सालों में धीरे धीरे कम होता गया है. So the relation between India and US has improved, right? And now it is coming up with as though a new dawn in their relationship. Now the author is guessing, or rather not guessing, he is stating or analyzing that, see, we would be tempted to conclude कि हमारे हिसाब से reason क्या है? Why is India and US coming together? Because they have a common enemy, China. Fine, that is a part of the plan. That is correct also. But then the major reason is to reboot the economies. Why? Because both of them are suffering from the economic growth is suffering because of the new technologies. It is disrupted because of the new technologies that have been unleashed. Right? So that means the economy is being affected by these new technologies. How to revive that, how to grow ahead, and then, of course, definitely reboot their national economy, so country would benefit, and this is going to have an impact across the world. So this was what they said about sustainable growth. Energy economy पे focus करेंगे, globalization पे rework करेंगे. Here, why? Because they've been affected by the new technologies. Now, even as he leverages or influences the US relationship to transform the Indian economy and elevate Delhi's global standing, the PM's visit has brought the two nations to an interesting paradox. Paradox means they are coming up with self-contradictory. So, ऐसे दो seemingly contradictory situation is there. So, through the Cold War, Delhi and Washington celebrated their shared democratic values, but found it hard to cooperate on any major issue. Now, Modi, who has created the basis for unprecedented cooperation with America, मतलब इसके पहले इस तरीके से cooperation नहीं हुआ था अमेरिका के साथ over the last decade, finds himself a target of intense US liberal criticism on India's democratic backsliding. ठीक है, US liberal criticism मतलब they are like criticizing India because democracy यहाँ पर कम होती जा रही है. तो जहाँ पे उन्हें cooperation अमेरिका के साथ ज्यादा बढ़ाते जा रहे हैं, वैसे यहाँ से democracy कम होती जा रही है. While Modi underlined India's deep-rooted democratic credentials, Biden was careful not to be seen hectoring the Indian Prime Minister. Both India and the US have a major task of democratic renewal ahead. दोनों कंट्रीज में डेमोक्रेसी को मतलब लिबरल डेमोक्रेसी है, it has to improve. It doesn't have to backslide. So that, however, is a domestic political task and not something to be imposed from outside. तो US हमें नहीं बताएंगे कि हमें क्या करना है. It will not be imposed. It has to come from within. Right? That is what he's saying now in this third paragraph. Shared democratic, they have to cooperate here, right? And then there's a liberal criticism on India's democratic backsliding, but they need to come up with this task of renewal on their own and not something that will be imposed from outside. Okay? So let's see what the main idea is. Acknowledging larger imperatives that bind, that means coming up with the India and US together. ऐसे इम्पेरेटिव्स हैं, उसे मान भी रहे हैं, समझ भी रहे हैं कि ठीक है, हम दोनों बायलैटरल कितनी मतलब किन किन फील्ड्स में हम कर सकते हैं, तो वो सब उन्होंने कर लिया. अब ओवरकमिंग हर्डल्स इन द टाइज, so what are the hurdles there that he was talking in the last paragraph also, and in the previous part of the first paragraph also, where he said that they were hesitant first, so they need to remove or overcome that hesitance now. So overcoming hurdles was there. Now, coming up with the vocabulary part, credibility, I'll give you the words, root words now. So you can note them down. Cred means believe. I think so. I've taken this earlier. If not, if those who have missed the previous one can write it down again. So credulous, जो आसानी से मान लेता है सबकी बात. Credit, credibility, incredible, right? Credence, it will lend credence to, मतलब थोड़ा सा विश्वास आएगा, ठीक है. और इनक्रेडुलस भी होता है, जो किसी भी बात पे आसानी से विश्वास ना करे. क्रेडुलस होता है जो इजीली बिलीव्स, एंड इनक्रेडुलस होता है डज नॉट इजीली बिलीव, राइट. अमिट्स मतलब इन द मिडल ऑफ. एम्बिशियस में you have another prefix that is ambi, and I think so I had given this to you around 2 days back only. Ambidextrous I had given you, or ambivalent I had given you. Ambivalent, ambivalence, or ambidextrous. So ambi means both. Ambidextrous is a person who can write with both the hands. दोनों हाथों से ऐसे लिखेगा. If you remember, थ्री इडियट्स में वायरस दोनों हाथों से लिखते थे. तो ambi and amphi means both. So ambidextrous हो जाता है, ambivalent हो जाता है. Ambitious नहीं है, पर I am giving you about ambi. Facilitation, something that is making the task easy. Facilitate करना मतलब easy करना. Disruptions में rupt word है. Rupt का मतलब होता है rupture, break, right? You have disrupt, that means something that is broken. The disrupt, disruptions हो जाता है. Abrupt आ जाता है, एकदम से कुछ बोल देना या कर लेना, वो abrupt changes होते हैं. ठीक है, तो जिस डायरेक्शन में जा रहे हो वहां पे एकदम से आप दूसरी डायरेक्शन में चले जाओगे, तो दैट वुड बी एन abrupt change in your path, right? एंड ऑफ कोर्स वी हैव द वर्ड इंटरप्ट, बीच में बात करना, आपकी बात को काट देना, वो इंटरप्ट हो जाएगा, इंटरप्शन हो जाता है. सो यू हैव दीज 2-3 वर्ड्स विथ रप्ट. रप्चर इज द वर्ड हियर. ब्रेक करना, वो रप्चर हो जाता है इन दैट वे. अनलीश्ड, लीश का मतलब होता है कॉलर या जिसको कंट्रोल में रखा जाता है, राइट. सो अनलीश्ड यानी सोचो कभी धोनी ने नहीं, एक्चुअली युवराज ने लगाए थे खूब सारे छक्के एक साथ, ठीक है, बाउंड्रीज करी थी उन्होंने, तो दैट वाज युवराज अनलीश्ड. वन ऑफ द कमेंटेटर सेड दिस, यू कैन सी युवराज अनलीश्ड नाउ, मतलब उसे कोई कंट्रोल करने वाला नहीं है. तो सपलनेस इज लाइक बीइंग वेरी निम्बल, बीइंग फास्ट, बीइंग एक्टिव, वो सपल होता है, ठीक है. लिवरेज करना, उसे बैलेंस करना, उसे इन्फ्लुएंस करना, इफेक्ट करना, दैट वुड बी लिवरेज, ठीक है. एलिवेट इज टू बी रेज्ड, उसे ऊंचाई तक लेके जाना, ऐसा होता है. अनप्रेसिडेंटेड इज समथिंग दैट इज नॉट हैपेंड बिफोर, ठीक है, तो नॉट हैपेंड बिफोर, इसके जैसा ऐसा अभी कुछ हुआ नहीं है. हेक्टरिंग का मतलब होता है वेक्स करना या परेशान कर देना, इरिटेट करना, और अदर लाइक unnecessary blaming something or hectoring, like annoying you can say, right. So you have a few words you have written down, noted down, possibly 1, 2 and 3, roots or prefixes, okay. So that's all for today, and see you soon. Thank you and have a logical day ahead.